The air in downtown Austin, Texas was thick with the usual buzz of a workday. Ashton Crane, a man with a sharp mind and a heart full of dreams, stared out the large glass window of his office. His eyes traced the distant skyline, the towers stretching high into the Texas sky, a stark contrast to the crowd of people milling about far below. To them, the city was a beehive of activity, a place to make their mark. To Ashton, it was a cage, each glass pane a reminder of the walls closing in on his ambition. Fort Hill Capital, a prestigious investment banking firm, had been his workplace for nearly a decade. Ashton was a software engineer by title, but in his heart, he was a visionary, a dreamer. His mind was a storm of ideas, over 60 software concepts jotted down on sticky notes, whiteboards, and, most prominently, the large white fridge in his modest home. Each idea was a step toward his ultimate dream, changing the world with technology. But those dreams had been stifled, ignored, and occasionally ridiculed by his boss, Edmund Thomas, a man more interested in quarterly profits than in Ashton's grand vision for the future. Edmund was an older man, greying at the temples, with a personality as cold as his neatly pressed suits. He ruled Fort Hill Capital with an iron fist, resistant to innovation unless it had an immediate, tangible benefit to the firm. Ashton's ideas, cutting-edge software that could revolutionize industries, were dismissed as fanciful, impractical, and, ultimately, unprofitable. "Stick to your work, Ashton," Edmund would say, a dismissive wave of his hand brushing away yet another of Ashton's pitches. "We don't have time for pipe dreams." Ashton had grown used to the rejection, though it never ceased to sting. His heart, however, remained undeterred. At home, his wife Beverly was his anchor, her unwavering belief in him keeping his spirit afloat. Beverly was everything Ashton wasn't: grounded, practical, and endlessly patient. A clinical psychologist by profession, Beverly had graduated from Harvard, where she had honed her skills in understanding the human mind, helping people navigate their inner turmoil. Her work was her passion, just as Ashton's was his. They had met in Boston while both were in college, Ashton at MIT, majoring in computer science with a focus on artificial intelligence and robotics, and Beverly at Harvard, diving deep into the complexities of the human psyche. Their meeting was serendipitous, the kind of moment that feels like fate. Both were ardent fans of the Boston Celtics, and it was at one of the team's fan events that their paths first crossed. Ashton, usually shy and reserved, was uncharacteristically chatty that evening, caught up in the excitement of the game and the energy of the crowd. Beverly, with her bright smile and infectious enthusiasm, noticed him immediately. They struck up a conversation about the game, which soon turned into a discussion about their respective fields of study. Ashton was captivated by her intellect and warmth, and Beverly found his passion for technology both fascinating and endearing. The days that followed were nothing short of magical. Ashton began visiting Beverly at the Harvard campus, the two of them exploring the city together, from the historic streets of Cambridge to the vibrant neighborhoods of Boston. They would spend hours discussing their dreams and aspirations, finding in each other a perfect balance of logic and emotion. Ashton, with his futuristic vision, was intrigued by Beverly's deep understanding of human behavior, and Beverly was drawn to Ashton's unyielding drive to make a difference in the world through technology. Their first official date was at a cozy little cafe near Harvard Square. Ashton, nervous but determined, had planned every detail. But as they sat across from each other, sharing stories and laughing easily, it became clear that there was no need for elaborate plans or grand gestures. The connection they shared was effortless, natural, and profound. By the end of that night, they both knew that this was the beginning of something special. From that moment on, they were inseparable. Ashton would often bring his work to Beverly's dorm, bouncing ideas off her, appreciating the way she could ground his sometimes far-fetched ideas with her practical insights. In turn, Beverly found in Ashton someone who challenged her intellectually and supported her emotionally. They were each other's biggest cheerleaders, pushing one another to reach for the stars while staying firmly rooted in reality. It was during these early days in Boston that Ashton first imagined a future filled with possibilities. A future where he could build something truly meaningful, not just for himself, but for the world. And it was Beverly who helped him see that dream clearly, encouraging him to pursue his postgraduate degree at MIT, believing wholeheartedly in his potential. Their journey together, from the storied halls of their respective universities to the bustling streets of Austin, Texas, was one built on love, respect, and a shared vision for the future. Beverly's belief in Ashton never wavered, even when his confidence faltered. She was his constant, the person who knew him better than anyone else, and the one who had seen his potential long before he had. Now, as Ashton stood at a crossroads in his career, faced with the uncertainty of the future, it was Beverly's voice that echoed in his mind, her words of encouragement, her belief in his abilities. It was because of her that he found the strength to take the leap into the unknown, to trust in himself and the dreams they had nurtured together. As Ashton continued to stare out the large glass window of his office, the city below buzzing with activity, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. He wasn't alone in this journey. Beverly was by his side, just as she had always been, and together they would face whatever challenges lay ahead. But the reality of his life in Austin was far from what he had envisioned. Their home in the suburbs was cozy, with its worn couches, children's toys strewn about, and the constant hum of family life. Amber, their bright and curious 7-year-old daughter, and Jonah, their introspective and tech-savvy 11-year-old son, brought endless joy and chaos into their lives. And then there was Husky, their golden retriever, whose boundless energy and loyal companionship was a daily reminder of the simple joys in life. Yet, as fulfilling as his home life was, Ashton couldn't shake the feeling that he was meant for more. Each day, as he commuted to Fort Hill Capital, he found himself daydreaming about what could be, about the life outside the glass walls of his office. He had once met Mallory Calton, a venture capitalist with a keen eye for innovation, at a tech conference a couple of years back. Mallory had been enthusiastic about Ashton's ideas, even hinting at potential funding, but life had intervened, and the conversation never went beyond a few brief exchanges. Now, standing at the window of his office, termination letter in hand, Ashton's mind raced with possibilities and doubts. After yet another heated discussion with Edmund, where Ashton had passionately argued for the implementation of a new AI-driven investment tool, Edmund had finally lost his patience. "We're not in the business of risking millions on untested technology," Edmund had snapped. "You're fired, Ashton. Clean out your desk by the end of the day." And so there he was, staring at the letter that symbolized the end of his steady paycheck, his secure, albeit unfulfilling job. The security that had allowed him to provide for his family, to keep their lives stable and predictable, was gone. But as he stood there, an unexpected feeling began to swell within him, a mixture of fear, excitement, and a strange sense of liberation. Was this perhaps the push he needed? The universe's way of telling him it was time to take a leap into the unknown? Ashton had always wondered if he could make a difference, if he could change the world with his ideas. But he had been too comfortable, too afraid of what might happen if he stepped outside the glass confines of his office. Now, with nothing left to lose, he found himself at a crossroads. The road ahead was uncertain, fraught with challenges and risks. But it was also filled with the potential for greatness, for achieving the dreams he had long kept locked away in his heart. As he placed the termination letter back on his desk, Ashton felt a surge of determination. He wasn't going to let this setback define him. It was time to take control of his destiny, to build something of his own. He thought of Mallory Calton, of the brief but promising conversation they had had. Maybe now was the time to reach out to see if those promises still held weight. With a final glance around the office that had been both his sanctuary and his prison, Ashton walked out, leaving behind the safety of the known for the exhilarating possibilities of the unknown. The next few days were a whirlwind. Ashton, no longer tethered to the constraints of his 9-to-5 job, threw himself into his work with a fervour he hadn't felt in years. He transformed the small study in his home into a makeshift office, filling the walls with charts, diagrams, and sketches of his ideas. Beverly watched him with a mixture of pride and concern, knowing how much this meant to him, yet worried about the financial strain it might put on their family. The first step was reconnecting with Mallory Calton. Ashton spent hours crafting an email detailing his vision and the software ideas he believed could revolutionize various sectors: finance, healthcare, education, and beyond. He hesitated before hitting send, aware that this could be the make-or-break moment. But with Beverly's encouraging words in his mind, he pressed the button, sending his ideas out into the ether, hoping for a positive response. To his surprise and relief, Mallory replied within a day, her enthusiasm evident in every line. "Ashton, I've been waiting for you to take this step. Let's talk about the details." Their meeting was scheduled for the following week. In the meantime, Ashton continued to refine his ideas, focusing on the one concept he believed had the most potential: a comprehensive AI-driven investment platform that could predict market trends with unprecedented accuracy. It was a risky venture, but if successful, it could disrupt the entire industry, something Ashton had always dreamed of. The day of the meeting arrived, and Ashton found himself sitting across from Mallory in her sleek modern office, high above the streets of Austin. Mallory was as sharp and energetic as he remembered, her eyes gleaming with the excitement of new possibilities. "I've read through your proposals, Ashton," she began, her tone serious yet encouraging. "There's real potential here, but you know as well as I do that potential isn't enough. We need to see results." "I understand," Ashton replied, his nerves tempered by a deep-seated belief in his vision. "I'm confident that with the right resources I can deliver." Mallory nodded, tapping her fingers on the table as she considered his words. "I'm willing to invest in your venture, but we'll need a solid plan. I'll provide the initial funding, but you'll need to build a prototype and demonstrate its viability within 3 months. If it works, we'll scale up from there." 3 months! It was both a generous offer and an immense challenge. Ashton accepted without hesitation, knowing this was his chance, perhaps his only chance, to prove himself. Back home, he shared the news with Beverly, who hugged him tightly, her worry momentarily overshadowed by pride. Jonah and Amber, too young to fully grasp the situation, sensed their father's excitement and joined in the celebration, with Husky wagging his tail energetically. The following weeks were a blur of activity. Ashton worked around the clock, coding late into the night, his mind whirring with algorithms and data models. Beverly took on extra responsibilities at home, managing the household and the children, allowing Ashton to focus entirely on his project. It was exhausting, but also exhilarating. For the first time in years, Ashton felt truly alive, each line of code bringing him closer to his dream. However, as the deadline loomed, doubt began to creep in. The software was complex, and there were moments when the enormity of the task threatened to overwhelm him. But every time he felt like giving up, he would remember the look on Edmund's face when he had dismissed Ashton's ideas. That memory, coupled with the unwavering support of his family, fueled his determination to push through. Finally, the prototype was ready. Ashton had created a software platform capable of analyzing vast amounts of data in real time, using advanced machine learning algorithms to predict market trends with a level of accuracy that was nothing short of revolutionary. He called it Foresight. The day of the presentation arrived. Ashton, wearing his best suit, stood in front of Mallory and a small group of investors she had brought in to witness the demonstration. His hands trembled slightly as he set up his laptop, but his voice was steady as he began to explain the technology behind Foresight. As he walked them through the platform's features, showcasing its predictive capabilities with real-world data, he could see the investors leaning forward in their seats, their skepticism slowly giving way to interest, and then to excitement. By the end of the presentation, the room was abuzz with energy, the potential of Foresight clear to everyone present. Mallory was the first to speak, a broad smile on her face. "Ashton, this is extraordinary. I think we're looking at the future of investment technology. I'm in." The other investors quickly followed suit, each eager to be a part of what they now saw as a groundbreaking innovation. Ashton could hardly believe it. He had done it. His dream was no longer just an idea on a fridge. It was real, tangible, and on the brink of transforming an entire industry. With Mallory's backing and the support of the investors, Ashton's company, Crane Innovations, was officially launched. The next few months were a whirlwind of activity as Foresight was refined, tested, and eventually brought to market. The software quickly gained traction, attracting attention from major financial institutions and tech companies alike. Within a year, Ashton had gone from being an unemployed software engineer to a multimillionaire, the success of Foresight catapulting him into the spotlight as one of the leading innovators in the tech industry. His life had changed dramatically. His family moved into a new, spacious home in a prestigious Austin neighborhood, and Ashton was now sought after by media outlets, tech conferences, and industry leaders. But despite the newfound wealth and fame, Ashton remained grounded. He never forgot the struggles that had brought him to this point, the years of being overlooked, the fear and uncertainty of striking out on his own, and the unwavering support of his family that had kept him going. Ashton knew that with great success came great responsibility. He began investing in other startups, particularly those founded by young entrepreneurs who reminded him of himself, dreamers with big ideas but limited resources. He also started a foundation to support educational programs in AI and robotics, hoping to inspire the next generation of innovators. One evening, as he sat in his new home office, much larger and more high-tech than his old study, but still filled with sketches and ideas, Ashton found himself staring out the window. The view was different now, a panoramic vista of Austin's skyline, the city that had been both his prison and his launchpad. But even as he admired the view, he felt a deep sense of contentment, knowing that he had finally found his place in the world. Beverly entered the room, bringing with her a cup of coffee. She placed it on the desk and kissed him on the cheek. "You've come a long way, Ashton," she said softly. He smiled, taking her hand. "We've come a long way, Beverly." As they stood there watching the city lights twinkle in the distance, Ashton felt a profound gratitude for the journey that had brought him here. It hadn't been easy, and there had been moments when he had doubted himself. But in the end, he had discovered that sometimes the greatest opportunities come from the most unexpected challenges. Ashton Crane had been fired from his job, but in doing so, he had found his true calling. He had taken a leap of faith into the unknown and had emerged not just as a millionaire, but as a man who had finally realized his dream. And in that, he had found something even more valuable than wealth. He had found purpose. As the night settled over Austin, Ashton knew that this was only the beginning. The world was full of possibilities, and he was ready to explore them all, one dream at a time. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Every challenge is a step towards success. And if Ashton Crane's story resonated with you, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories like this. For guidance through similar challenges, check out our resource hub, linked in the video description, or on our channel page. Let's keep the conversation going and support each other. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.